Okay, good evening, all the participants and respected speaker, Mr. Srinivas Mahankali. So today we are going to present this webinar on the blockchain in supply chain of the medical products during the COVID-19 pandemic. And all of we are aware that since last 1.5 years we are facing a lot of problems in the supply chain of the medical products during this COVID-19 pandemic. So there are the new emerging technologies coming up in day by day. So all of you are aware about this blockchain. So we have an eminent speaker, expertise, and a lot of experience in this particular blockchain technology, where a lot of transformations right now happening. So he's working on all the kind of stuff. So we are having among us Mr. Srinivas Mankali. He is an alumnus of IIT Madras, and I completed his management from IIM Bangalore, and he's having more than 30 years of the experience in the industry. Presently, he's working as the head of growth and alliances at Strategy.io, a leading blockchain as a service platform aimed at enabling easy solution of blockchain across India and the world. He also worked as a lead consultant for blockchain and emerging technologies at the Government of India and NASSCOM promoted company NISG National Institute for Smart Government. As an inaugural program director of India's first university certified part-time postgraduate program in the blockchain technology by Amity University, he has mentored a number of blockchain students across the world, and he has authored a number of books on this technology like blockchain, the untold story, blockchain for non-IT professionals, blockchain and smart cities. He also co-authored numerous books like Secure Chains, Artificial Intelligence, ML Power Agents for the Automation, Blockchain Consortium, the business models for the futures. And recently during this COVID, he just shared a very good book on the people unfortunately we lost from this COVID-19 pandemic. So we have such kind of beautiful person, eminent person, experienced and highly consummate in his profession. So it's the opportunity to learn more and more about the blockchain and how we can utilize in the supply chain of the medical products, not only in the COVID-19 pandemic, but in future kind of outburst also. So I cordially welcoming you, sir, to present this webinar on this special topic, the blockchain in supply chain of the medical products in during this COVID-19 pandemic. You are welcome, sir. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Ashok. It's indeed my privilege to address an eminent university in the healthcare domain like IIHMR, and I'm deeply honored that you have chosen me to address your students. As you rightly said, COVID has been shaking the world, but it has brought about a complete, totally renewed look at the digital transformation. And when everything is going digital, correspondingly there are a lot of risks also that are dramatically scaling up. And that is where you require technology like blockchain that can, even secure all our digital footprint, by adding a totally different secure layer. The time that has been, I think, allotted is a little bit short today, though the field is very, very vast. But to do justice to whatever we discussed today, I have chosen to focus on a couple of topics and go a little bit deeper and explain to them. And ultimately, blockchain is a shared or a distributed ledger which acts like a trusted third party with applications called smart contracts running over distributed databases. So the same principle can be used once a consortium is formed and the entire nodes, everything are launched. You can develop different applications and launch depending on the use case over a period of time. So the concept remains the same. The underlying platform and environment, everything remains the same. It's just that what all you want to do more in due course. So if you know a little bit thoroughly about how you do a couple of applications, the same logic can be extended, and you can, then depending on the use case and requirement, you can launch any types of applications. So I'm also in the process of writing a book, Blockchain in Healthcare, so which will go deeper into across all the use cases. That is not for sale, but that is more for education purposes to universities who want to launch blockchain in healthcare, as a subject, so that they can, discuss in detail different aspects of blockchain applications for various domains within the healthcare itself. So I would not be, putting it up for sale, but will be selectively distributing to, chosen, colleges and universities who want to have a, subject called blockchain in healthcare. Anyway, we will go deeper into it a little bit later, but I will just share my screen and give a brief introduction about blockchain before going, into various applications of blockchain in healthcare that we normally come across. Yeah, I hope you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes, visible.
So as we all know, blockchain, I think, many of you would be having a very good idea by now, because blockchain has been in vogue for the past 3-4 years, and especially enterprise applications and governments across the world have been, dabbling a lot with blockchain and seeing how they can leverage blockchain for dramatically enhancing their productivity and, profitability and genuinity and trust in the transactions between, various parties across the world who may not be knowing each other. So traditionally, initially, blockchain was more known for its cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. Bitcoin is basically the first application of blockchain which came about in January 3rd, 2009, which was basically a form of a value unit that is exchanged between peers who never knew each other, and value unit was created over the net on a digital platform, and then shared in a trusted manner between parties across the world, and in such a way that there is no double spending and there is absolute trust. So this is the first of its kind of execution of creating a digital unit and distributing it in a foolproof manner without double spending, and it has broken a lot of stereotypes and myths and misapprehensions about such a thing happening. And but the underlying technology, that is blockchain, which is very, very powerful, has now come to totally transform the perception of people about this particular platform that is just a cryptocurrency, but it can be used for many types of applications for for enterprises. So basically, what blockchain is and the underlying aspect of blockchain is a shared ledger, a ledger that is shared between a number of parties who are transacting with each other. So you could also have a database that is shared between a lot of people, but databases generally are controlled by the one admin or one centralized company. But in blockchain, the database actually, whatever transactions are happening and recording on a blockchain, or are actually transacted after a consensus being reached on the transaction's genuinity or applicability, or after being verified by a set of companies which are working together to maintain the database. That means one person cannot change whatever is there in the database. So that way, a group of people are working together in different enterprises. They maintain a database, and whatever transactions happen in that, they all come to consensus about the transactions, and then only they can commit to it, right? And there are different applications now that can be encoded, and then that can be done, and that can be after consensus is reached, and those applications can be committed to the result of the applications can be committed to the ledger, right? So the way in which it is committed, it leads to the transactions that are stored on the blockchain becoming immutable. That means it's very, very difficult to change whatever is recorded on the blockchain, because if you want to change anything, you need to overpower the set of people who have been working in tandem and coming to consensus, and then also change after overpowering them and then getting their approval. Then you have to also change all the transactions that have been recorded and in the blockchain, and they all are bound together, one after the other, with timestamps and in hashes, and there are a lot of mathematical logic that goes behind it, and the time is too short for going deeper into that. But it is just suffice to say that whatever is recorded in the blockchain is tamper evident. It's almost immutable, and it is at most trustworthy, and it's almost impossible to change anything. So if you are doing any transaction and recording on a blockchain, better be careful about its authenticity and genuinity, because if you commit a wrong transaction, if you do a mischief, it will also be recorded permanently, and you could be caught. So that is the reason why anybody who is transacting in blockchain would not dare to do any wrong transaction and and mischief. So that is how blockchain enforces a lot of trust in transactions, because it is like a system that is helping in enforcing trust among various participants who are who may not be knowing each other, but they are working in tandem and sharing a lot of transactions amongst each other, right? So such a platform did not exist before, because we are always used to organizations running a lot of IT applications within their enterprises, and they take decision on their transactions. And every organization has got its own ERP applications or analytic applications, CRM applications, everything. But if you want different enterprises to work on one platform, then you need to. It is a very, very humongous effort to get all these people onto one application. Somebody has to create something, go and convince all the people, get all these people into integrate all their backends, and each one has its ocean in itself. So such a thing was not possible before, but blockchain makes it possible for all these enterprises to come together easily and work, operate on one platform, integrating all their backends to it through APIs. Okay, so how blockchain works is, traditionally we are used to interacting with other people. If you are doing transactions with anybody, then you will have a third party which is offering the trust. For example, if you are buying something from a buyer on Amazon, the Amazon is offering the trust. If you are transferring some money to somebody, the bank is offering the trust. So these trusted third parties, actually, they have over a period of time become large, and they have offered the trust, but they take a lot of cost, and they also become single points of failure when they become very huge and connect too many people, right? So we have been seeing data breaches and all these large organizations manipulating, dictating terms, not letting people do what they want, but what they choose, right? So that is a problem of over centralization and overpowering vested power in all these large behemoths, right? But what blockchain does is, instead of the trusted third parties who are organizations or people or individuals or entities, it will replace it with a set of nodes acting in tandem and running a program called a consensus program. So it is all automated, and the program that is running is known to everybody in the system. So the way it runs in the system, so this particular system becomes a trusted third party. So no more organization or no more individual is involved, right? So this particular set of people who are working these nodes, they are governed by some consensus mechanism, and which are run. There could be some enterprises running these nodes, but the program cannot be tampered with. Everybody knows the program. Nobody can show any favoritism or do wrong things, because whatever you do, you have to do in consonance with the program and consensus program that is running on the system, and you cannot manipulate in whatever way you want. So that is how you no more are dependent on individuals or entities or large organizations. It is a system. You can see blockchain network acting like a trusted third party. So when you have a machine which program is known to the entire world, or all the people who are participating in the system, that is taking a call or the transactions in a very transparent manner, and then it is committing the transactions. The transactions are then shared to entire network. So if you want to change any transaction, or you want to do some transaction later on, say I have not done it, okay, and you want to renegade on that, but you need to first overpower the program that is running on the system and ensure that all the people who are managing the system, they are actually overpowered, and the program is changed to your notice, so that even without other people knowing it, and then the transactions that are recorded in all the other members of the group also change, which is all these things are very much impossible, right? So it is possible, but it is only possible when everybody understands and wants to do it together. If that is the case, then you can well change it. You can also, if you want to do that, then you can also append more transactions and reach the result, the end state that you want. Okay, you don't have to go and change the past transactions. So that is how blockchain is nothing but a system acting like a trusted third party, so that peers across the world, peers could be individuals or organizations, conduct transactions among themselves without any fear of something going wrong, somebody else, going back on the transactions, somebody not committing something but not doing it, because all these things are enforced by the system, right? So this particular concept is implemented on different platforms, whether it is Hyperledger Fabric or Ethereum or R3 Coda or numerous thousands of other platforms in a different manner by using various permutations and combinations of these programs, whether it is consensus programs or whether it is whether the information that is stored in the blockchain, or or who can do the transactions, who are not, who cannot do the transactions. These are all whether they're permitted to do, not permitted to do, or it can be seen, not seen. There are various permutations and combinations. So depending on the the combination which you are applicable for the different scenarios, you can choose different platforms, different consensus, methodologies, and different approaches, whether it's a permission blockchain, permissionless blockchain, or public blockchain. Public blockchain means everybody can see what is going on in the blockchain. Private blockchain means only selected people can get access. Permissioned blockchain means only selected people can participate in the consensus mechanism, and then they can also write any details to the blockchain. Permissionless blockchain means anybody is authorized to download and participate in the decision-making mechanism, and they can also take part and write transactions to the network. So various permutations and combinations are possible, and in healthcare, mostly we come across permissioned permission public blockchains, wherein public also can or permission public or permission private, depending on the execution, depending on whom you want to give authorization to see the transactions that are happening, whether it is a movement of the good or whether it is a health record or any other clinical trial information or whatever is stored. Depending on the privacy requirements, you give approval. You design the system in such a way that selected people or all the people can see. But most of the time, it is a permissioned execution, of the blockchain paradigm. So this is how blockchain works. Is whenever some people want to do transaction, they are permitted to do the transaction. They create identities on the blockchain, whether it is thing or whether it is individuals or whether it is any asset or any of the components who want to undertake transaction, or about whom some actions have to be, on whom some actions have to be performed. So they're all given identities, and then those transactions are then triggered on these particular individuals, items, or between the individuals or identities, and the ownership of the assets could change depending on the applications that are programmed in the blockchain. If somebody would say, I would buy an item from somebody, and when I pay the amount, item is transferred to me. So there is a contract between the two, and when the conditions are met, the money is transferred and the item is ownership changes. So all these things, transactions are then pushed onto the network. The blockchain acts like a trusted third party, and it then verifies the information and says, yes, it's fine. This is possible, and then it puts a stamp on that, and then those particular transactions are committed to the network, and all the people who are party to the transactions, they get approval notes, and they append their ledgers with the particular transaction, and the ownership changes. Now, if you see on the right side, there is a item that is moving from manufacturer to a distributor to a dispenser. Like suppose a drug is moving. So whenever item is created, manufacturer creates an ID of the item, and then he puts it in various pallets, and it is tagged at various levels. The item is then moved through the transporters, and then whenever it changes hands from one party to another party to another party, the smart contracts are triggered, and when the actions are recorded on the blockchain, and the ownership of the item changes, and at various stages the item depend, and even the geographical the indicators, everything is location, all these things are recorded at where the items change their ownership. So every item that is created by the manufacturer, at the end of the supply chain, it will take along with it and create a complete record of what all has happened to the item till the time it reaches the ultimate point, right? So all these things are viewable on a website that is linked to the blockchain. And for that, what you do is you put a tag or a QR code on the pallet, and then append all these transactions onto the the website that is linked to the QR code. So as and when you scan the QR code, you will get a complete list of all the transactions that have happened to it, what all has happened, any details, whatever you want to append over a period of time. It could be temperature related information, it could be geographical, positioning related information, it could be change of ownership related information. Any information, whatever you want, can be appended to that tag, and then it can be viewed at the end of the entire value chain by scanning the QR code. Right, so that is the way. Traditionally, in normal supply chains where there is no blockchain, you will not be able to see the movement of item from manufacturer to distributor to dispenser, or some 101 people in the middle. So if they are not on the blockchain, you can only see, if it is serialized, when serialization is there, you can only see whether this particular item has been manufactured by the manufacturer or not. But you cannot see where it moved, how it moved, when it moved, and whom all it went through in this entire value chain. You will not be able to see in the normal supply chains where which are not empowered with blockchain. Right, that is what blockchain will bring in, a transparency into the entire value chain of the product. Right, so you have seen blockchain actually contains is a distributed ledger. So the information that's shared across number of parties. So if you want to change anything, you have to change the number of people. If somebody loses, you can also get it back from others. So it eliminates the single point of failure. And all the people whatever transactions are happening, it is recorded in one ledger and distributed to all the people. So at the same time, so if people have single source of truth. And you can, all the people in the blockchain things have identities which are, mathematically, derived. So you may not know the names of the people, names of items. If you want to hide any of them, you can hide and only deal with the product ID or individual ID, etc. That way you can provide a lot of secrecy and privacy. And all the transactions, whatever has happened, are timestamped, and you can know at any point of time in the future, and they are there forever recorded. So at any point of time, you want to know which transaction has happened, or if any item has has been through a cold storage, which switched off its the electricity, and then the temperature went out of control. At what time it went out of control. All these things could be recorded. It can never be changed because it is immutable, right, and tamper evident. Anybody changes means immediately you know how it is changed, who it has changed. All these things will be recorded, and it is absolutely secure because there are multiple layers of security, access, authorization, and authentication. All these things are new, different layers are added to the normal transactions. So they make it extremely difficult for anybody to break into the system and then create malware attacks. Okay, and unlike normal databases, here you have programs which are running on the databases. So the ownership of assets or any any of the conditions, any of the states, they get changed depending on the programs that are encoded and running on the blockchain. So unlike normal databases which do not have to entertain programmable transactions, right? So and another thing is all the transactions are committed through a process of consensus, right? When number of organizations which are dealing with part of the blockchain, they agree together and then commit the transactions. Unlike in a database or a centralized system, only where the owner takes a call, or he can also change the data in whatever way he wants, because of which there is no trust. So blockchain offers a number of totally different benefits in inter-party transactions, which were not offered by traditional systems. So, and you also have this smart contracts. Smart contracts are if whatever identities, whatever people, whatever things, all these things that are recorded on the blockchain, transactions can be conducted between them, and and whenever any conditions are met, then the transactions are triggered and the ownerships could change, or items could, the quantities, also many activities depending on the program, they could change, right? So these are called smart contracts. That they're nothing but real life agreements which are programmed into applications that facilitate the transactions between the various identities and assets that are stored on the blockchain. So, and you can conduct almost any type of application, real life application can be modeled using the smart contracts, and they can take place between all the various parties who are leveraging blockchain at the back end. So the smart contracts offer autonomy because you automate a lot of processes and systems, and as and when some events, external events happen, they get automatically triggered and shift the ownership of assets, etc. Okay, don't require manual intervention because it's all programmatically driven. And since there are no individual involved, or people cannot do anything at their whims and fancies, and whatever is happening as per a program that is agreed upon by all the parties and known to all the parties, there is tremendous amount of trust. And one more thing is blockchain, is eliminates, we discussed this single point of failure is eliminated because the data is duplicated between number of parties. So if somebody loses the data and there is a ransomware attack on one node, the data can be retrieved from other nodes, right? So that's why it will also prevent any loss of money, etc. You have seen recently a lot of ransomware attacks happening, and people taking away a lot of money in the form of bitcoins, etc. All these things can be avoided if they are part of a blockchain network, because the data can be retrieved. So you are no more hostage to any malware attack which is capturing your system and trying to threaten you. So, and another thing is you have, since you are a trusted third party, blockchain is acting like a trusted third party, and you are not dependent on a lot of middlemen. If there are 10 middlemen, all the 10 middlemen could be, if they're not adding value, they're only providing trust and taking money. You can eliminate all of them, and you can only have one or two of them, and you can have a blockchain acting like a trusted third party. So because of which, when you depend on automated systems and programmatically run applications, then your cost will come down a lot, right? Because these people in the middle, they could manipulate the data, they can lose the data, and they could take a lot of time in exchanging the papers, a lot of paper, and courier charges. So many things are there, and time taken by couriers to move from place to place. All these things could be eliminated when data travels instantaneously over the net, right? And there's a lot of accuracy because you have all the manual updation of data, everything. You can create templates, you can store them, and you can populate them, and they can automatically be filled when conditions, when events happen and triggers are generated. So you have a tremendous amount of accuracy, and there are also verification methodologies, because people, all these transactions, only verified transactions are approved, and then they're committed to the ledger. Any wrong transaction, mistaken transactions, all these things will not pass through the blockchain system, right? So you have what are the various elements of blockchain? You have identities, we have discussed. Anybody who is transacting in a blockchain will have identity. Anything that is any manufactured item that is then committed to a blockchain, starts a journey on a blockchain, will have an identity. And once it is born, like we are born with a name, so you are born on a blockchain, your thing is blockchain, and born on a blockchain on a with an identity, blockchain identity, and then it travels. Whatever happens on that, all the transactions, it can be it can be queried and found out. So all the logs, you can create a log of all the transactions that happen to entire life cycle or the journey of the product from a manufacturer till the end, very end, where it is consumed and destroyed also. So you have ledgers, because ledgers create a log of all the transactions. There are two types of logs that are generated. Databases, two types of data that are generated. One is list of all the transactions that are approved, and you can, once they are approved and committed to the ledger, you can never relegate on them, and you can never go back, because there is a huge process of consensus as well as distribution. All these things, it's not possible to overpower. And then you have the current state of who owns what, what is what, which manufacturer made which item, what is the ID, and who is the current owner of that item. Suppose a car is created, Tesla car is created, and it is owned by Dr. Ashok, and Dr. Ashok gets sold to Srinivas. So at any point of time, these transactions are also recorded, when it is manufactured, when it is sold, when Mr. Ashok bought, and when he sold to Srinivas. At the same time, today, who are all owning, how many cars are there, and who is the owner of each car. So that is the current state of the database. So the list of transactions as well as the current state. These are the main types of data that are always available at any point of time can be queried, right? And contracts actually are the various agreements. And if Mr. Ashok has bought the car from owner, there is a contract between the two, right? There is a sale agreement, there is a buy agreement. And if there is an exchange between Mr. Ashok and Mr. Srinivas, there is another agreement. So these things, all these things, there will be contracts that are triggered. And then when the conditions are met, when Srinivas pays money to Mr. Ashok transfers his car to Srinivas, all these things are automatically triggered transactions. Smart contracts will move the item from me to him to me, and my money from me, record of my money to from me to Dr. Ashok, like that. So all these things are automatically triggered and run on the blockchain, and they're recorded forever, right? So now coming to pharmaceutical industry. So you have in pharmaceutical industry, we have seen that Pfizer manufactures vaccines which are to be transported at minus 70 degrees centigrade. So different pharmaceutical products need to be transported at different temperatures, right? Some of them may be room temperature, but most of the time you have these pharmaceutical biologics which need to be transported in a strict temperature controlled manner, right? So they use cold storage, etc. If by mistake somebody is not switching on the cold storage, somebody with normal transportation, the efficacy of the particular drug is gone. But how do you know whether this particular, throughout the entire journey, this temperature has been maintained or not? So as of now, if any Maersk or somebody is doing the transportation, you have to just depend on whatever data they are providing you, right? But if in the middle, if something wrong happened, power went off, they can manipulate the data and they can write the data what they want, right? Because other people don't know about it, what is happening there. Only Maersk knows. So that is where you have trust issues in the current system, right? There are a lot of trust issues, and there's a lot of fake drugs. There are 30% of the drugs in Africa and underdeveloped countries are supposed to be fakes as of now. So a lot of lives are lost, okay, because of fake drugs. And global standards and erratic landscape of there's local drug serialization is there, but different countries have their own different systems. US has drug supply control, safety act, security act. EU has got falsified medicine directive. Different controls, different people, different organizations, different adopted in a different way in different countries. So there is no standardization. This causes problem of interoperability of all these various applications and programs that are running across the world. So you have this entire value chain which is disjointed, disoriented, running in a siloed manner, and which is not possible to monitor in a seamless and systematic manner. So that is why globally there is a lot of movement to ensure that we have some sort of a standardization. So serialization is not just sufficient. So earlier serialization they thought will solve the problem, but serialization, you can even copy the serial numbers, right? So the counterfeit people have overcome all these things also and devise their own means of creating fake drugs. So there are so many ways in which the fake drugs are created, and you have clinical trials that are performed for every drug to come into the market. If it is said that if any clinical trial is happening in India, the foreign companies wouldn't trust it. You have seen that FDA has still not given approval for Covaxin, which is manufactured in India, which is the first one of the vaccines which is created only in India. Why? Because there is no trust of any clinical trials that are undertaken in India, because they feel Indians manipulate their clinical trials. Means they feel that the patients are recruited in a wrong manner, and without their knowledge, sometimes the trials are undertaken, or sometimes some data is falsified, and without undertaking trials, data is created. Okay, this sort of unfortunate impression that is there for phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, all these different types of clinical trials that happen in India, there is no trust. So basically, what you're talking about is a lack of trust. Even in insurance claims, there is no trust, because people feel that all the data that is provided in insurance claims, there is again either there are errors or they're falsified reporting, right? And then you have a lot of data breaches that are happening because of the parties who are holding sensitive information across the healthcare value chain, they continue to lose the data, and that is very highly valuable, right? That there are a lot of data breaches that happen. So there is a big problem of trust in healthcare, Unfortunately, healthcare affects our lives. The life of every person is dependent on what is the quality of healthcare that he receives. So you have a problem of genuinity of clinical trials, whether the trials are genuine or not, right? And whether the product effectiveness claims and certifications. A lot of people, in Ayurveda, in some premium products, they will say our product is different from others because it has got some high percentage of some unique element, right, or a vitamin or something like that, or it can cure some things. But how do you know what is the whether it is genuine or not? Okay, if that product is having, how do you know that somebody in the middle has, okay, you buy, some people say Caronil can cure, can improve the immunity, right? Okay, I believe Patanjali and Caronil can improve the immunity, and Caronil, Patanjali people also put some certifications along with the product and tag it, so that I can find out that, okay, this is having this particular components, and these are all providing this particular advantages for immunity. But when you go and buy in Amazon, you don't know whether you are buying the original Patanjali's Caronil or somebody else creating his own Caronil and putting it on Amazon website and selling you, right? So there are a lot of problem in some terms of knowing the certification, knowing the claims, whether it is a genuine product you are buying or not, right? Then a lot of people assert my product is organic, my product is having is manufactured in stringent conditions, unlike other product. But there's so many assertions that are being made, and we believe it and we buy it. So, but most of the time, and adherence to transport conditions, if a cold storage is turned off and the temperature is going RE and it is not going to room temperature instead of being at -70, there's no way in which you can know, because if there is no proper system of tracking and tracing this whatever is happening across the journey. So health record aggregation, authenticity, nobody knows how many health records they have generated throughout the lifespan. Even the latest health record also they would not be carrying, right? Because they're not recorded properly in one place systematically. Every time you have some problem, you run in again to the same diagnostic again and again and again. So if there is an allergy, if you forgot to tell the doctor, then you're gone, right? So if there is a common aggregation of all these health records, how well it would be if somebody could just scan something or type in some keywords or access some record and find out what all has happened to you, what are all the tests you undergo, and what are the allergies you have, what are the conditions you have, so that it will help them in treating better. You can also avoid a lot of duplicate diagnostics. Like, so now another thing is vaccination claims. We have seen a lot of doctors. I have come across a lot of doctors, who have said that they have taken vaccination, but they did not take. How they did it? They have just put some record of themselves and got it updated. Because they were scared of vaccination, because they saw some people dying because of vaccination. So it happened about 1 month back. I was traveling in the train with a doctor. So he said a lot of medical workers, they died because of vaccination. And then, because of that, the other people did not want to do, but they came and requested him, and he was supposed to give a certificate, right? So what happened is, this is common. A lot of, you people say today 11% of the doctors have got reinfected after vaccination, double vaccination. Why? Because those 11% of the people did not take vaccination, but they got certification of vaccination. Okay. So all these things, if there is an automated system wherein people cannot just like that update data, but it is verified through a proper consensus mechanism and committed permanently and transparently, then you can know exactly whether who is vaccinated, who is not vaccinated. Okay. And if something happens, if something happens also, you can track, right? Whether it is because of vaccination or how many people got again infected because after vaccination also, you will have accurate details. Unfortunately, you will not be, right now there is no such system. So your insurance frauds are the biggest, false in claims and fraud claims. This is one of the biggest problems in the insurance industry. They put in a lot of checks and balances, still a lot of money is lost, either because people have claimed wrongly, or insurance companies have they have discredited insurance claims and not paid them, right? So both ways there is a fraud that is happening. So, but there is no way in which you can, catch them and hold them accountable, right? So all these things is because there's no proper system. So information shared during epidemics, you have seen that number of times people just like that, tell China says, we have only 80,000, corona COVID cases, but everybody knows there are at least 3 to 4 lakhs of deaths in China. There are a lot of reports that have indicated that more than 3 lakh people have died in China, because during that time when this was happening, there were so many fumes that were coming, from the dead bodies, but that was captured by the satellites. But China says only few thousand people have died of corona, right? So there is everybody is creating their own impressions, and they are trying to falsify the information, share different. Some people want to create terror, some people want to create fear, some people want to say everything is fine. So people who are trying to share information in the way they want, it's not because of the information being accurate. So there are right now, I mean, I catch up in my book because today I may not be able to share everything. Number of applications, World Health Organization as well as US CDC, they have put in place systems where they use blockchain and they verify the information, and then only they record anything, so that at any point of time, if somebody comes with strong information, that is also recorded permanently and they can be taken to task. And similarly, vacancy and resource availability, you find that which beds are available, which hospital is having beds, which hospital is not having we having ICU vacancies or not, or which have oxygen concentrators. All these different resources people hide. A lot of times hospitals keep something information for themselves, they don't update it, or because they want to give some sell them in black, or give it some favorite treatment to some other people, right? So because of which you don't have transparent information sharing of various availability of resources, or whether it is even drugs, even remdesivir or any types of drugs, or drugs that are in shortage, or whether it is hospital resources. So many different types of resources are always in shortage, and they are hoarded. They're hoarded and they're sold in black market. They are selectively administered. So much of we have seen all these things happening in front of our eyes. That is because today there is no proper system of wherein you can have a unified look, at all these things, and there's no blockchain system that has been, implemented. If blockchain were actually, we have made a proposal to Ministry of Health, 1 year back, for all these various use cases, and unfortunately, because of COVID and a lot of people are not working, people getting affected, and it was taking a lot of time for them to implement new technologies. So they were not able to implement, but they said they will implement it in the future. There is a national health mission which is working on digital health and creating an ID card for everyone, and then also looking at exploring blockchain implementation across the entire spectrum of healthcare services. So that will happen in due course. But today all these problems do exist, and we have so many developments that are happening. Digital transformation is affecting every segment of healthcare. You have medicine and telehealth checkup. These are happening. You have seen Dr. K.K. Agarwal, who unfortunately expired after 2 vaccine doses. So he was the proponent of virtual, telemedicine, and he was telehealth checkup. So he was, across the country, he was consulting thousands of patients at the same time, lakhs of patients at the same time. So like that, a lot of today, because of the contagion, it is very difficult to address each and every individual patient in remote areas. So we have a lot of virtual interactions happening between the doctors and patients and diagnostic centers everywhere. Right. So for this, you use all the latest technologies. Blockchain is something that can be used to record the conversations, so that tomorrow people cannot say that I have not given this drug, or they have not told this condition, or this condition has been diagnosed wrongly, which could lead to legal cases, right? So blockchain is something which could find utility out there. Then real-time monitoring of patients' health. We have seen a lot of COVID patients are sitting in the house, and even elder people also nowadays, they are in the house, and they could have a fall or something where kids are there abroad. So there are intermediaries which are putting CCTV camera, analyzing and tracking any problems, and then reporting, and then so immediately action could be rushed. or if there is any problem happening. So it's vice versa. Even patients who are on the bed in the ICU, or they are also observed using CCTV cameras, and real-time monitoring is done. And you have real-time health checkup, patient health records. That means when people can wear wearables and they the blood oxygen level, or whether there is either a pulse or any blood pressure, all these things can be measured live and then beamed into tweeted into a portal, and then doctors could periodically look at any dangerous signals. So immediately corrective actions and prescriptions could be provided, right? So there are a lot of technology is being now explored at every level. You're also having things like medicine dropping with help of drones. So drones are being used to drop some sort of medical consignments to hospitals and selected locations. And blockchain is being explored to ensure that you have verification of every item, so that you eliminate fakes and fake products. And then only authorized products are moving through authorized channels, as well as they are genuine. And most importantly, the transport conditions are adhered to, right? And you have electronic health records. We have seen that medical records is one of the biggest use cases in blockchain for healthcare, wherein there are large organizations are implementing. Even IBM, number of companies are working very actively in this, and they are creating storage of secure storage of patients' health records, and people can upload their health records through the hospitals, and they can be provided. You can then provide access to any doctor, whomever you choose to, so that they can immediately get access and then treat appropriately. So all the records are maintained in one place, and appropriate treatment could be given. So automated clinical workflows and processing. So IQVIA is one company which is one of the largest in the world in terms of data analytics in clinical research, and they are very aggressively looking at implementing blockchain to manage, because in clinical record, what happens is you have different sites, and each site is doing site means in a hospital or something like that, which is doing clinical study for different sponsors on different substances or different products. And you need to ensure that the product what you are doing, you track it from the manufacturer, so that you know exactly what you are tracking, and then you are able to ensure that there is no confusion when so many products are being administered on so many patients in one site. So you have a unified database so that every product, every test, every result, every patient is tracked in a uniform manner. Because if you don't do that, the auditing requirements are almost very impossible to adhere to, because the amount of auditing that takes place to ensure that people don't do mischief or things don't go wrong. Because if you do wrong reporting here and wrong result comes out, when the drug is administered to large segments of people, so many people can get affected and die also. So a lot of care is taken, huge money is spent in terms of auditing and ensuring by regulatory authorities to ensure nothing goes wrong. But still, a lot of times, we have trust issues plaguing, right? So blockchain actually can eliminate a lot of these trust issues, what we have seen across the supply chain, or across the health record management systems, and across the clinical trials that happen. So all these and also the sharing of data that happens. So everywhere we have seen blockchain has got its utility, and slowly and steadily the applications of blockchain in the past 1 year have seen dramatic increase. And we have got inquiries from large organizations, whether it is IQVIA and a number of global leading organizations are in India, also insurance companies, large hospital chains. They are all looking at implementing blockchain. Government also is looking at implementing blockchain and going to provide a common unified identity card, health ID card to all the citizens, and in future people could track all the medical records. So coming to the vaccine tracking, vaccine is one of the important portion, and whatever you do with the vaccine, the same thing happens with any other medical product in the chain, right? So vaccine when it is made, you have a lot of raw materials that are being used. You've seen India actually recently was asking for raw materials from USA, and USA approved it for manufacturing of vaccines in India. So the vaccine raw materials keep traveling all over the world. Then manufacturing takes in some other part of the world. The development of formulation takes place in some other part of the world. And then all the entire filling of the vaccines, vials, everything takes care. And then packaging is done of all these things. And then they are released and then they're transported again all over the world. So you have so many items, components, which are very, very sensitive products, and which have to be going through a very, very trusted chain of activities across the world, being shared with between so many parties. So when such a large operation happens, billions of vaccines, you have world has got 7 billion people, more than 7 billion people. So all 7 billion people, if they need to be vaccinated twice, okay, then you have so much of transactions happening, of raw materials moving, packaging done, manufacturing approvals being happening, physical trials happening. So many things are happening, and everywhere trust is, we have seen, every place trust is involved. And then you're also having to maintain record of each of this vaccination to individual, whether they're vaccinated or not. Again, that also a health record has to be updated, that so and so person has been vaccinated, and vaccine passport has to be issued, so that then they can travel to internationally also. So everywhere in the value chain, you have a trust issue, you have a potential problem, you have a potential, fake products being injected, fake records being created, okay, and wastage is happening. Using 30% of vaccines are currently wasted, because there's no proper tracking, or because of transport conditions, or because of expiry, or because of demand supply gap issues, right? So a lot of $6 billion globally is a huge money that is being wasted. Almost 50,000 crores of rupees is expected to be wasted. So you have different collaboration between different companies. And now coming to, vaccine has been in work for different use cases, diseases, viral, or mostly it is bacterial. So number of diseases have been having, requirement of vaccination across the world. And UNICEF and Gavi, association, they have been actively looking at collaborating, creating a collaborative ecosystem for outsourcing vaccines from third world countries, and then distributing it in areas like Africa, etc., which are poor, where there are a lot of incidents of all these various diseases. So they do all these activities on very, very large scale. And they have in India, they have also India has got largest manufacturers of vaccines for number of diseases. And then India, they have identified a company called StatBig in India, which is also one of the pioneers in implementation of blockchain in for vaccine tracking, or pharmaceutical tracking, or food products, or civil supply tracking. Number of use cases they have executed in Telangana government or globally for vaccine tracking. So you have different ecosystems here. Hospital ecosystem, which are generating the records, whether it's personal records, electronic medical records, government and regulatory, which is always keeping a watch. Manufacturers who are, like in India, you have, SII, a number of companies, Bharat Biotech, number of companies which are manufacturing vaccines. And there is the entire, DHL, Apollo Solutions, the number of companies which are very active in transporting these vaccines. So they're all operating in different silos. So and the amount of the documentation that is exchanged between all these organizations, that could also lead to, one is wastage of paper and a lot of time that is lost when vaccines are transported. And if somebody is not adhering to the transport conditions, then again that also needs to be recorded. So that's where this is the visual that is taken from a MediLedger project, which US FDA has implemented. They've implemented a pilot along with a company called Chronicle, wherein they've got 23 large, pharmaceutical companies and hospitals and various distributors. They got together to run a pilot of creating some items and tagging some items, manufactured items, and then shifting across the value chain till the time they are dispensed. And they have tracked these items between these disparate parties on one particular blockchain ledger, which is integrated into their respective backend systems. But it is tracking the movement of all these items, and they found that blockchain is very much successful in tracking, in providing accurate tracking of an item, and it is much better. Blockchain with serialization is far better than just serialization in terms of ensuring that there are no fake drugs that are included into the value chain. At the same time, the transport conditions, everything is accurately monitored, so that if there is any problem that is happening in the value chain, then somebody somewhere, you have IoT sensors which are tagged to every consignment, which are actually recording the temperature variations. If any temperature goes out of the limits, immediately an event is triggered and recorded on the blockchain. So action could be taken, or it could be noted that in future, and if we can scan and find out which are the consignments which have gone, to be transported, in a wrong manner, so that they can eliminate those consignments and destroy them. So you have three different stages here. One is vaccine development. We have seen, manufacturing as well as clinical trials, research. All these things happen, and once they are manufactured, they are tagged. Right, every item is tagged, and then the supply chain management takes over, and you have IoT sensors which are put in every consignment. All these things we will see in the coming slides, how exactly it is done. And once it reaches the respective clinics, then they are PHCs, then they are administered there, and then you need to record which citizen has got the vaccine. So, and you have to keep whether there is any problem happening after the administration, or whether and the second dose is taken or not, and then you have to keep sending reminders. So all these things, they have to be properly, these three different stages have to be properly tracked. And blockchain offers a fantastic integration system to be able to carry this out from end to end on one platform across different ecosystems. Whatever 4 ecosystems we have seen, all these things can be connected over one blockchain system, and items can be tracked across these 3 different stages, right? So blockchain provides traceability at wire level, and it can help in monitoring the temperatures of every consignment, and it can also, at every handoff point, it can record the time, regarding the location, regarding the party. Everything can be tagged on, so that it can be verified at any point of at any point. So when you want to create such a system, you need to deploy to production. You need to you have time, very less time, lot of activities to be done. Different enterprises are involved, and it's a complex end-to-end system. So you got a lot of business partners. People are afraid of sharing their information, afraid of information being leaked to the rest of the people, because a lot of information is private. Their patents, their copyrights, their their inventions also have to be secured. So blockchain actually offers a fantastic system wherein everybody can maintain their private data, and then only share the hashes of transactions, or hashes of the information, so that the actual information is not shown to unauthorized parties. So blockchain provides for all these various privacy and security and confidentiality to be maintained. And there are we don't want a single point of failure. So the different systems, whether it is the freezer system, the IoT based system which tracks the temperatures, and there is a shipment planner because so many items are being transported. So you need to integrate different elements, and identity system provides identity for each element. There is an IoT system that provides that tracks the temperatures of each of the item, and there is also records GPS notings of location of each consignment. And there's a transportation system which is also moving the items from one place to another place. Okay, and there's a lot of documentation that is associated with it. There is regulatory system, there are duties being paid. Okay, so all these things are being absorbed at various ports or destinations or airports. So all these things have to be connected over a multi-cloud, because a single cloud is creates single point of failure. So, and different organizations have adopt different clouds. So you should be able to connect it over all the clouds. So it looks very complex. But one thing is, blockchain makes it very, very simple. So all these things, normally, if you look at it, it looks very complex. You have so many different types of systems, so many types of activities, manufacturers, transporter, reefer operators, and then warehouse operators. There are clinics, there are hospitals. So there are so many events that are being passed out. So number of things are happening. So how do we take care of all these things on a blockchain? So I talked about Statwick, which is one of the leading blockchain organizations based out of Hyderabad, and which has been recognized by UNICEF, and it is helping UNICEF in tracking vaccine delivery across from manufacturers in India to a lot of countries across the world, and between them also, right? So items also can keep moving from one to another; they keep getting exchanged. So what it does is it does QR code, a unique QR code for every vial that is made, for every unit, and it tracks them across the value chain. So, and when a unit is created, it is created into set of 10 units each or 8 units each, and then it tags them at that level. Then 100 of them go into one pallet, one carton. It tags the carton, and again 100 cartons go into another pallet. So it tags the pallet. All these are linked. So if you want to know which if you scan the item when the pallet is moving from one country to another country, okay, when you take out the vial inside that and scan it, it will show that it has traveled in the same way in which its pallet has traveled, right? So that way you can track the journey of each vial itself, because this vial is tagged to that pallet, and that pallet, how it has, you have tracked it at every stage of the handoff. So, and they automatically, when the pallet has moved, the vial inside that also is moved. So it abstracts all these things. So there are different types of temperature sensors you use in this transportation. Okay, I just mentioned a few types of technical details about different types of temperature sensors that are used while transporting and measuring the temperature variations that happen along the consignment, to ensure that when tomorrow when Pfizer is available, Pfizer vaccine, if it has to be moved at 70 degrees, if it goes to 50 degrees in minus 50 degrees in some place, immediately that will be flagged, that will be recorded on a blockchain, and then you will reject that consignment, right? So when it went out of the temperature range, all these things should be recorded in a blockchain if you are using a blockchain system. So when item moves at every level, you are adding more and more information. You can see initially when it started, you are started with the origin, batch number, unit number. It's all linked to the QR code. When you scan the QR code, you'll get all this information, right? And when it moves, go to the transporter and to the flight to another country. From there, it is taken by a truck operator. Then it goes to a hospital. So everywhere, new information is added to the block, and then the respective people agree and accept it. The ownership of that consignment also changes. And by the time it goes, and when somebody reaches to the end and they scan the same QR code, you will get this entire journey, where all it has moved, how it has moved, what were the conditions when it moved, whether it is within the permissible limit in terms of either temperature or in expiry period. Everything, all these things, temperature, location, chain of custody, batch details, beneficiary mapping. You can also tag who received the mapping, to whom it has been, because everybody who has been administered, he also is having an ID, right? So you are having your own the application in your mobile phone. So when you scan from the application, it will immediately link the particular vaccine to this particular identity that is there in your application. So everywhere it is, what are the purchase orders, release orders, the transactions between the manufacturers, countries, states, as well as for both ordering but transporting, dispatching, everything are recorded in the vaccine ledger. So this is a application which is not just like that for putting in a paper. It is actually happening, right? This is an implemented vaccine ledger. The same proposal has also been provided by us. When I was in NISG, I discussed with Stratwick, and we collaborated to make a similar proposal for tracking COVID vaccines to Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, right? So the proposal is with them, and they're considering to implement it. Unfortunately, the time was very short, and things happened so rapidly, and that they could not implement such a thing at a large scale. But in future, once they implement it, because a lot of work has to be done before putting in place such large systems, once it is done, then in future, all the vaccines, whatever is being transported emanating from many Indian manufacturers, they would be tracked. Like in India, you can see GMR Airport, it has got a tie-up with Stratwick. Stratwick tracks all the various vaccines that are manufactured by the manufacturers in Hyderabad. There are 3 manufacturers of vaccines in India, big, large ones. And whatever they manufacture, Stratwick has been working with them to tag them. And whenever they move to the airports, they also have, because over a period of time, you need to get all these parties into one platform, whether it is airport, whether it is government, whether it is transportation companies, whether it is hospitals. So all these things have everybody has to come in. So it has been regularly, systematically roping in parties and getting them onto one platform. And their vaccine ledger actually, it tags manufacturer once he manufactures the item. Okay, he provides an ID to the item, and then a record is created, and it is, whereas as and when it is manufacturer purchase order is created, and then purchase order is accepted, when then shipment is created against the order, and then item is shipped, and the item is received by the warehouse, and the warehouse actually sends it to the primary healthcare center or the hospital, or administered to the patient. So these are all different stages of the consignment. Everything is recorded on a blockchain ledger, everything on one ledger, and then recorded permanently. So when you scan it, you are able to get complete tracking. So when you do it earlier, when there was no blockchain, you can see on the left side in Africa, for example, they have epidemic prevention through immunization program. So there you have different levels of vaccine, stages of vaccine movement. They were having at every stage. They're having poor handling, poor temperature control, pure supply going out of getting spoiled, or not being fake things coming about, no document management, everything, all problems were there. But once they have implemented blockchain at every level, they're able to just by able to tracking the complete conditions and accounting each and every vaccine from the manufacturing till the time it is administered, you're able to overcome all these problems. The same things could also be, you can see a small video about how it happens. This will give an idea to you as to how this is implemented in just a few minutes. There is no audio for this, but you can just see through the.
Yes, sir. We can understand. We can understand, sir.
Yeah. So a purchase order has been created, and it is being sent to the supplier, to manufacturer. Manufacturer receives the purchase order and he accepts it. So then he arranges for the shipment. Then the item is sent to the transporter. Through the transporter is sent to the location which is ordered. So each of these transactions are automatically linked to that record of that in the blockchain.
So I think it is developed by you all guys.
By Statwick, which is a Hyderabad-based organization, which is doing extremely well. They're very good at vaccine tracking. So they have developed it, and I worked with them extensively, to also see if we can implement this in India, in the government of India, when I was there in NISG. So the proposal has been given to the ministry. So you've seen the entire journey. Wherever you have seen, once a QR code is created, now you can track and trace whatever transactions have happened, they are recorded now. So all these transactions are appended to the ledger. When you scan a QR code, you are able to see all these transactions for that particular medicine, right? So yeah, that gives you an idea about how a product can be traced. You can track the product and you can trace it back to the origin, right? At any point of time in real time, whenever you want to know, when you scan a QR code, you receive it in your go down, you scan it, you know how it has come to your place, right? For example, you have a in a GPS, right? When you see, you can see when your car is going, you can know at anywhere when your car is coming to you, right? From Ola or something, you can track where exactly it is, right? So you can track it. Okay, and then you can also trace back the journey, which is the route it has taken, because it's all recorded permanently forever, right? And then similarly, once the citizen is there, you have an electronic medical record system that has been implemented, so that the citizens, health clinic, all the state health agency, they're all a part of a system. As and when a person is vaccinated, the clinic will issue a certificate to the citizen saying that yes, you are vaccinated, and a citizen has got a ballot. Okay, you have our application. In that ballot, it will go and record it and store, saying that now we can show to anybody saying that I have been vaccinated on so and so date. And this record also is recorded in the government records as well as the hospital records. Now you have seen similarly all these applications now can be easily implemented by us. Earlier, when I was implementing blockchain solutions 2 years back, we had to set up the node. We had to talk and show all these things to the customers. We didn't have proper material to showcase the various transactions or implementation use cases. So, and then we have to set up the nodes, we have to create the smart contracts, we have to upload them and connect the network. It was taking, my first application with say Kerala police took 6 months for a small application and 30 lakhs of rupees, right? So but it was a simple application, simplest application of some document sharing. But today we have platforms like Stacey Blockchain as a service. I have a demo, but I don't think I have time to showcase how actually they track the entire journey of the both vaccine ledger as well as supply chain tracking, everything in one system using a Stacey Blockchain as a service, right? So here you have different applications like drug supply chain. Okay, we're tracking of an item from the manufacturer till the end. So you have different smart contracts. Basically, you have in any blockchain system, you have a blockchain platform, okay, which runs smart contracts, which has got databases, and which has got a ledger. We have said two types of ledger, okay, and then we have an explorer to verify, by checking using the IDs to track the entire, chain of the items to know what has happened to the consignment throughout. So the explorer is there. So these are the common components of the blockchain, and then you have different parties, peers, or different organizations who are transacting with each other. There are smart contracts which are triggered when any transaction has to be conducted, and then they are moving the assets or ownerships, or creating activities and changing the status on the ledger. And then you have different some people who are observing the transactions like audit, government authorities or regulatory authorities. They only watch. They don't do any smart contracts, but they keep a watch but everything is going up or not. So like this, you have different parties now using smart contracts, and through APIs, they're able to conduct transactions. Once the transaction is conducted, it will go and sit in the blockchain. The blockchain is now distributed to everybody. So if I am doing transaction with you, we do a transaction, it hits the blockchain, and you want somebody else in the world to your financier who's sitting in some other bank to know, and immediately message is sent to him, and he will release a payment. That payment will come to your bank, okay, and automatically all these things can automatically simultaneously happen, and they can be recorded in the blockchain. So that is the advantage of blockchain, because instantaneously a lot of people and all the documents that are exchanged are all formats that are standardized formats that are created, that are filled, that are sent, that are approved, so they're immediately recorded. So similarly, you have medical device traceability. There is a company called Qlinda, which is an US-based company which manufactures a lot of IoT-based medical devices which are used by patients and hospitals. So it tracks every item, whether it is in good condition or not, on a live basis. If it is going out of control for maintenance contracts, or sometimes if you use something on the body and if it is showing or going out of control, immediately it should be flagged and action has to be taken. So all these things are recorded and then distributed and then maintained, monitored over a blockchain system. So Qlinda also uses the Stacey blockchain as a service platform to track the health of each and every device and maintains it. Because if they don't do it, earlier they were plagued with a lot of the court cases, because when the devices malfunction, patients get affected, they go to court, and it could be very, very costly for them. So now they are using the blockchain, they're able to remedy the situation, they're able to leverage and instantaneously rectify and reduce their court cases. We have seen how blockchain can be used for maintaining the health records, tracking the entire health records, and you can use blockchain for contract research also, wherein number of universities, number of hospitals, number of sites, number of manufacturers, all these people can collaborate, and then auditors, regulators can keep a watch and they can get a record which is auditable instantaneously. So today a lot of money is being spent on regulations, implementing the regulatory and auditing requirements. All these things can be reduced a lot, and a lot of action is already happening, and IQI is working a lot in implementing blockchain for clinical trials, right? So similarly, we have a blockchain for claim settlement. HDFC Stacey and HDFC are engaged in a discussion to implement blockchain for claim settlements in insurance. So even Bajaj Insurance also has created a blockchain-based application for some use cases. Now HDFC is about to implement blockchain for tracking the insurance claims. So they are having a blockchain consortium with selected hospitals, third parties, as well as banks, as well as government, as well as insurance, IRDA. All of them are going to be on one chain. They are going to implement it to once a claim is created, and then later on when a claim is, somebody raises a claim, and till the time it is settled. So these things have been already implemented in other parts of the world. Singapore government, they implemented 2 years back itself, complete health and medical insurance or a blockchain by, anybody has got any problem with a medical insurance, they go and get treated in a hospital. Over a blockchain, the settlement is issued to the patient, right? So this, especially they did for selected use cases like pregnant women, etc. But over a period of time, they plan to expand it to a lot of other use cases. So blockchain, when you started initially, you started very small, just like how you started in a company. You start a proprietary company, and then a partnership company, then LLP, then private limited company, then a public limited company, and a public company. So in the same way, in blockchain also, initially you can start with your one node, 2 or 3 nodes within your departments, or within your divisions, or within 3-4 departments, or you can also talk to one of your partners, whether it is a hospital or whether it is a pharmaceutical company. You can get them on one platform and create some use cases, and slowly you can add and more parties, and over a period of time implement different types of use cases. Whatever different types of use cases we have seen, whether it is medical device traceability, or whether it is electronic medical records, clinical trial management, or whether it is supply chain monitoring, vaccine tracking, all these are insurance. All these things can be implemented on the same blockchain platform. So similarly, when blockchain, suppose you're seeing here, how blockchain initially starts with one founder. Suppose IHMR were to start one blockchain platform, and then it goes and ropes in lots of hospitals over a period of time, then banks and insurance companies over a period of time. All these people then start, and then all these people together put in place a governance system. So there is another, because other people may not believe, IHMR only to govern the system, because governance means some expenses are being incurred and some returns are being obtained. How do you ensure that the returns of investments are paid for everyone, right? So you create a society which is comprising of all these people, called a governance body, and then that will implement, that will oversee the implementation of various blockchain applications. So this is the way. This is I've taken a implementation, and I just created a scenario for in a healthcare domain, how you can create a platform and then use it for different use cases among various organizations, and how you start in the beginning. In the beginning, you only IHMR could lay out all the rules, but later on, when more people come, a governance council will come and you take over, and then they will start formulating the rules, and whatever you have put in effort, you can get the return, because you could lease out, or you could you could license some of the solutions you have developed, or whatever effort you have done, that could be reimbursed in different ways, and you could leverage the blockchain for your own advantage in number of ways. So this is MediLedger. We have talked about MediLedger, which is used by FDA. FDA has asked Chain a MediLedger network to to test out some use cases of supply chain, with serialization across 23 organizations collaborated and proved the use case of a blockchain. So in that consortium, you have working teams, project managers, network managers, steering committee. These all take care of the entire governance of the platform. so that blockchain is only 25% technology, but 75% how different companies, different enterprises are coming together, collaborating, and and governing in an impartial manner, so that everybody gets the benefit uniformly, right? So in a democratic manner. So you have a proper escalation and mechanism in the blockchain network, and who runs a consortium, what consortium is created, who all the participants, what are applications they are doing, how the data is being shared, and so that people want privacy and security, confidentiality, all these things are maintained, and undue advantage is not taken by the founders or large companies or the smaller companies who are part of the system. So all these things have to be taken care of. So governing council will take care of all these things. So it's a multi-enterprise and collaborative game, wherein you take the economies of scale of totally different dimensions are obtained. It is found that wherever there is a high trust in the system, the cost will come down dramatically, because a lot of times we end up paying a lot of money for trust. So when you have seen how trust is a big factor in healthcare, across every activity of healthcare, there is a trust involved, because after all, it affects your life, right? Life of people at every stage. So you have to have highest level of trust, and that can be augmented a lot by leveraging blockchain. So as I said, I have created this resource for blockchain healthcare, the trust factor, which I'm populating with a lot of use cases and good papers, and some of the good applications. And like what we have seen, Stacey, and we have seen this one, HiMedRx application for health records, then MediLecture, then StartWeek. So there are a number of such applications which I have studied, and I've tried to create comprehensive resource which can be used by universities, in case they want to launch any course of for blockchain in healthcare. Even clinical record also, there are one of my friends has got a company in USA. He has been working on implementing blockchain for clinical records for the past 3 years. So that's doing extremely well. So all the across various use cases, I have been working, and I've been talking to people who are implementing blockchain in healthcare, and exactly how they are doing it, what are the challenges are facing, and what are the platforms they're using. All these things I try to document in this particular blockchain healthcare. Maybe I'll share a copy of it with Dr. Ashok in due course. Yeah. Here I end, and I hand it over back to Dr. Ashok and see if there are any questions. And I don't know if I could answer some of these questions, but I will try my best. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, thank you, sir. Thank you for this beautiful presentation, and the way you just explained in a very simplest way, and you have just given the example of of that supply chain, in that supply chain of the medical products. Just like the vaccine, right now we are facing a lot of problems in transport of the vaccine from one place to another one, and this is the corona times what we are struggling. So I think we understood a lot of things from the supply chain and blockchain, and and how the smart contracts are used into that one, how the consensus can be achieved mutually, and how all the data transactions are recorded in the one ledger, and this one ledger is shared among all the stakeholders, all the nodes. So now I'll open this session for the question from the participants. So if anyone wants to ask any question from Srinivas. Hello.
Yeah, I'm hearing. Yeah, I'm hearing. And if anybody wants, I think a copy of the presentation, I think, has been shared with Dr. Ashok. So you can.
Yes. We will share to the participants.
Yes.
So let's. I have to ask to IT department. हितेंद्र जी, ये स्टूडेंट्स को ओपन कीजिए ना क्वेश्चंस पूछने के लिए. हाँ, इनको ओपन कीजिए, then they will ask the question.
सुचित्रा विश्वास, आप पूछिए.
Yes, Suchitra. Hello, Suchitra, please unmute your mic. Sir, somebody is asking what would be a cost, rough cost rough cost to implement such a system for a hospital? And can it be implemented in any one of clouds, Azure or AWS?
Yeah, so one is implementation in any cloud. Yes, you can do. Azure has got you can take nodes in Azure or AWS, or you can have different nodes in different enterprises can have in different clouds. You can have Google Cloud also. You can have DigitalOcean. Anywhere you can also have some nodes on premise, right? Perfectly, AWS, Azure are well suited. That is one. And second thing is cost is varying depending on what sort of applications, everything you want to run. You can have starting from anywhere between around 10 lakhs rupees. If you have, you can put in place a good system with and start doing applications, and you can charge the people who are storing the medical records. Normally people charge for registration. People can similarly you can charge them for creating a record and then maintaining it, and you can charge for some transactions, and you can then once you create it and start managing it over a period of time, a lot of people outside your system also through an API it can be offered, and then anybody can also create their own records, or you can upload their records, or then you can rope in other offer opportunity for other hospitals, other doctors also, or other diagnostic centers to upload their records. So the best is actually if one hospital can do it, if it is having large enough patient list, everything for the patients. But blockchain is always best done when more, it is an inter-enterprise platform, when more hospitals, where more diagnostic centers come forward. So best is you should float a consortium wherein you are also a member, and you also give opportunity to other hospitals, diagnostic centers also to become members. Okay, so that all their patients also can, lakhs of patients, everybody has got thousands of patients. So all the patients can utilize this platform. Okay, and then you can put a governing council to manage this consortium, so that there is a lot of trust and transparency, and people are assured that the data is going to be private, and it's going to be well governed, right? And you also need to take care, because tomorrow if any data gets leaked, there could be a lot of other legal issues that could happen when government rules and regulations are there different. So it's best done when you join hands with but you can always start. A hospital can float a new blockchain. You can start, or you can IHMR, or anybody can join hands, and technology provider, they can also join hands together and create a new organization. For example, I'll tell you, when Maersk was attacked, Maersk is the largest container shipping company in the world. They run about 20% of the containers across the world transported over Maersk's ships, right? They were in 2016, they were attacked with a virus, WannaCry virus, and all the system had shut down, and then all their the movement of containers got stopped everywhere. That's when they didn't know how to. They finally overcome it. They lost 300 crores, and then they started a blockchain consortium along with IBM. Right, with IBM, they created a blockchain. Initially, put all their consignment tracking through that, and then they floated another company called TradeLens and migrated this platform into TradeLens company, and then they roped in other other partners, like some other freight forwarders or shipping companies. Now, initially, shipping companies did not come because they were skeptical, because they were competition, but they roped in port authorities, government, regulatory authorities, non-competing people, and they created an ecosystem, and they were sharing all their information. Only 20% of the container traffic was flowing through that, but because blockchain is able to provide a high level of access, authentication, authorization, then they could totally avoid. After that, there's never been a cyber attack on them. And seeing that this company is benefiting, all the people are benefiting well, their costs have reduced, and their profitability has increased. The competitors also, after seeing that they have put in place a good governance system, they started one by one joining hands. And then today, 78% of the container traffic happens through the TradeLens platform, of which Maersk is one of the members. So initially, you start singly. It's always better is done a different entity, because if you are one company is running it, it's like any other centralized application, right? Whoever is trusting you only will be through the system. But if you are creating a new company, And then, and just like, and then a lot of people are participating in it. They invest together. They invest their time, effort, mind, and credentials, credibility, everything together. And all of them can get in their customers to port onto the platform and do the transactions. And economies of scale could be tremendous. So to start with, if you want to do a few POCs and do, experiment everything, about 10 lakhs to initial investment, maybe going up to 15, 20 lakhs. But then you can put it, or once you put it in another company, you can get 1 crore for the same thing, right? Means you can monitor, your investment could be multiplied when, the another blockchain consortium is formed. Your share in that value could be 1 crore, wherein you have invested only 15, 20 lakhs and started.
Okay, thank you, sir. Which company does the most implementation in India or abroad? IBM, Mphasis, or other IT service providers?
Yeah, so in India there are Infosys, Wipro, Tech Mahindra, Persistent Systems. These are some of the biggest players in the blockchain. And IBM is a platform, right? So IBM has got their own. Like for example, you have Linux. Linux is open source, but you have CentOS, Ubuntu, like that, different versions of your Linux. So IBM takes say it has taken Hyperledger platform or R3 product platform, their open source platform, and they created their own augmented versions, enterprise versions, and then they offer it, and people can collaborate with IBM and some of the largest consortiums, whether it is Food Trust by Walmart or TradeLens by Maersk, and some of the others are running using IBM platform. IBM is also collaborating with a lot of governments because they have cloud, they have analytics, they have number of other very good tools which are required in the blockchain ecosystem. And then you have, so similarly, Oracle has got its own variation of own version of Hyperledger Fabric. So so there are a number of companies. Oracle has got a blockchain platform. Then as a blockchain as a service, SAP has got their own blockchain as a service. Then Lenovo has created its own blockchain platform. So a lot of companies take these open source platforms like Hyperledger Fabric or Coda or Ethereum, private Ethereum, and then create their own variations. And some large organizations, like for example, you have the people of billion-dollar companies. They want to go for their money is not the big thing for them. They want speed and dependability and credibility. So they may go for an IBM. So IBM handles a few governments and selected large organizations, and along with them they created large consortiums. So like that in future, like internet, everybody is going to have has to go through a blockchain platform. So market is very huge. So similarly, Stasia offers its own version of blockchain as a service of Hyperledger Fabric or Ethereum, or in future Coda, etc. So Oracle has got, Stasia has got, then you have Alibaba has got. So different people have, but largest could be Oracle, IBM. These are the largest players in blockchain.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much for this very informative presentation on the blockchain, because what I understand that blockchain is the emerging technology right now, and it is its application is going to use in numerous industries, just like in the finance, in the research, also in transportation also, and everywhere where we need the transparency, everywhere we need the authenticity of the data. Definitely, this blockchain is going to revolutionize the kind of pattern which industry is right now working, and at the last, within a year or two, most of the industries they are going to implement the blockchain technology in their day-to-day work also. How they have to integrate their own functioning, how they have to create the one platform where all the people who are working under the one roof, how they are generating their reporting to the one person. So everybody is there to look into that one, and everybody wants the solution of their problems which are encountering right now from the industry. So what I feel that this kind of the presentation are really helpful to the people who are working in the pharma industry, not only the pharma but other the hospital industry and the patient data, how they just integrate the patient data from one hospital. Even if one hospital wants to integrate the data to the another one, then yes, they can do. And what you emphasize that you submitted your proposal to the Ministry of Health. Right now, I think they are not understanding the significance of this one, but definitely I am damn sure within a couple of years they are going to implement this one, because we are just listening a lot of voice about the bitcoins. Neither they are just deregulating nor they're regulating. They are still in dilemma what they have to do. But what I can say, this kind of a technology, this is beyond the cryptocurrency, beyond the bitcoins, beyond the ethereums. So what I feel that you have just done the justice with this kind of a presentation, and on behalf of the IIHMR University, I am highly grateful to you that you just accepted my this invitation to present, to give your precious time to our students, to our participants. Thank you very much for your beautiful words, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And I see some of my friends are in very director level positions in, say, Dr. Reddy's or Sun Pharmaceuticals, or some of the leading hospitals. So and HDFC or insurance, etc. So what I feel is maybe IHMR, because you are well positioned in the ecosystem with connections to people across healthcare domain, and you are the leading university, which also has got a relationship with all the players in the entire value chain of healthcare. Perhaps you could be a part of, you can initiate a blockchain consortium, and that will also help all your students to have hands-on and experiment, come out with their own decentralized applications, or dabble with it, understand more, and be prepared better. And over a period of time, this consortium could also become a global sort of a benchmark. So that's one thing, because, for example, you have seen IIT Madras has come out with an application for tracking health record of every COVID patient who is vaccinated, right? So if IIT Madras can do it, IHMR has actually got relationship with all the hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, and diagnostic centers, everybody in the country. So you have the entire ecosystem with you. So you can also do it, and your students are also there who are very eager to leverage emerging technologies for the healthcare domain. So I'm just wondering, it could be the right time for you to kickstart such an operation. But I think I see that you also written a lot of papers, and you are very passionate about blockchain. So you understand this domain very well. So we can easily collaborate and do something like that.
Sure, sir. Sure. I'll take your words forward to our institution, and I will discuss personally to the president also that how we can develop that consortium, and we are having the person just like you who can mentor, who can just help us to develop this kind of consortium for the hospitals, and how we can collect that patient data on time, and how we can maintain the transparency, and how we can track the data as and when required without any hindrance. So
yeah, and somebody is asking for blockchain sessions. So I am just putting in my our website, genuinitylabs.com. So you can log into that, create your account. There are free courses also, and there is a blockchain certified professional program, blockchain solution architect program. And for your students, I can give you a free coupon also, whoever is interested. So I can share the coupon with you. You can share it with some passionate students.
Oh, great, sir. I know that I went on the site, and it is there is the fees for that one, and it's a good opportunity.
Yeah, I can give you some free coupons. You can use that. Yeah.
So if students are interested, you can just let me know, so I can share that email address and your contact details to Srinivas. So you will get that free coupons to, and his email address is also there. You can directly contact to him also for the free coupons. So it's a great opportunity for all of you. First time in this country who is just giving that kind of certification course for you, that is completely free at this, because of this webinar. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for considering these participants, sir.
Yeah, really honored, and it was great interacting with all of you. Thank you very much, So
Thank
Dr.
you.
Ashok, let's do something together in the future. Yeah.
Sure. Definitely we will do, sir.
And I think healthcare is very lucky to have somebody like you, in a senior position in a university. Yeah.
Sure.
Who's
Definitely, sir.
passionate about blockchain.
It's initiation, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
lot of things yet to do. We have certain plans, so we will discuss later on after
Yeah.
this one. So thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Be with us.
Thank you.
Have a great day, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day, all of you.
Okay, sir. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.